In the summer of 2012, Elias Harper lived alone in a weathered cabin on the outskirts of Blackwood Hollow, a forgotten notch in the Appalachian Mountains, where the pines whispered secrets to the wind. At 47, Elias was a man carved from solitude. His wife, Clara, had vanished during a similar storm 5 years prior, leaving only her faded quilt and a lingering scent of lavender that clung to the rafters like a ghost regret. He worked as a lodger by day, felling ancient oaks that groaned like dying beasts, but nights were for the radio, tuned to faint AEM signals crackling with weather reports and old-time fiddles. Thunderstorms were his curse. They rolled in like biblical judgments, shaking the cabin's tin roof until the world felt like it was unraveling at the seams. That July evening, the sky bruised purple as Elias sat by the fire, nursing a tin mug of black coffee. The forecast had warned of severe weather, a superset brewing over the ridges, promising hail the size of golf balls and winds that could strip flesh from bone. He bolted the shutters, checked the generator's fuel line, and double-knotted the ropes securing his truck to the porch. Just another squall, he muttered, but his hands trembled as he lit a cigarette, the flame dancing like a trapped firefly. Clara's disappearance replayed in his mind. How she'd stepped out to secure the chickens during a downpour, her yellow raincoat a fleeting smear against the lightning strobing dark, and never returned. Search parties combed the hollow for weeks, finding only her boot, half buried in mud by the creek, its lace frayed as if clawed by unseen hands. By 8 p.m., the storm hit with the fury of a scorned god. Lightning forked across the valley, illuminating the cabin in electric blue snapshots. Elias' grizzled face, etched with lines like lightning scars, the quilt draped over his armchair, its threads unraveling. Thunder boomed, a primordial roar that rattled the windows and sent dust sifting from the ceiling beams. Rain lashed the walls and sheets, turning the dirt path to a river of slurry. Elias killed the fire, its embers hissing into oblivion, and retreated to the kitchen table, where a kerosene lantern cast jittery shadows. He tried the radio, but static devoured the signal, a white noise hiss that mimicked labored breathing. That's when he heard it, a whisper, faint as a lover's sigh, threading through the gale. "Elias, come find me." It slithered from the walls, or perhaps the floorboards, impossible to pinpoint amid the cacophony. He froze, mug halfway to his lips, coffee sloshing onto the scarred wood. Imagination, he told himself, echoes of Clara's voice from old voicemails, warped by the storm's acoustics. But the whisper persisted, growing insistent. "I'm waiting under the roots." A chill clawed up his spine, unrelated to the draft seeping through the cracks. He grabbed his shotgun from above the mantel, its barrel cold as a serpent's scale, and peered through a slit in the shutter. Outside, the world was a void of whipping branches and horizontal rain, lightning revealing twisted shapes in the treeline, pines bending like supplicants in prayer. The power flickered out at 9:17, plunging the cabin into Stygian black. Elias fumbled for the lantern, its wick sputtering to life just as another peal of thunder shook the foundations. The whisper returned, closer now, as if exhaled from the hearth. "Elias, the storm remembers." He spun, shotgun raised, but the room was empty save for shadows puppeteering the furniture. His heart hammered, a war drum in his chest. Was it grief manifesting, or something older, stirred by the tempest? Blackwood Hollow had legends, whispers of storm walkers, spirits born from lightning strikes, tethered to the living by unfinished business. Clara had dismissed them as hillbilly folklore, but on nights like this, Elias wondered. Desperate for distraction, he rummaged in the pantry for the half bottle of bourbon, stashed behind the canned beans. The liquor burned going down, a fleeting warmth against the encroaching cold. But as he swigged, the floor creaked, not the settling groan of old wood, but a deliberate footfall from the loft above. Elias' cabin was single-story, save for a cramped attic accessed by a pull-down ladder he'd never used since Clara's death. No one was up there. No one. He chambered around, the click echoing like a judge's gavel, and stared at the trapdoor in the ceiling, its rope dangling like a noose. The whisper laughed then, a wet, gurgling chuckle that bubbled from the vents. "Join the dance, Elias. The roots are hungry." Panic surged, hot and metallic in his throat. He climbed the ladder in a frenzy, shotgun slung over his shoulder, lantern swinging wildly. The attic smelled of mildew and something sharper, ozone, like singed hair. Cobwebs draped the rafters like funeral veils, and in the corner, piled with forgotten Christmas ornaments, lay Clara's raincoat. But it wasn't there before. Elias knew every inch of this space. The yellow fabric glistened, slick with rainwater that shouldn't exist indoors. He reached out, fingers brushing the material, and recoiled. It was warm, pulsing faintly, as if a heartbeat within its folds. Thunder crashed, and the lantern died, snuffing the light. In the pitch, Elias felt it, a presence, coiling around him like smoke. Fingers, cold, insistent, grazed his ankle, tugging with gentle insistence. He fired blindly. The muzzle flashed searing retinal ghosts, the buckshot shredding insulation into confetti. The grip released, but the whisper returned, triumphant. You can't shoot the storm, love. It's in your blood. Stumbling down the ladder, he barricaded the base with the kitchen table, sweat mingling with rain leaking through the roof. The cabin groaned, timbers flexing like ribs under strain. Hours blurred into a fever dream. Elias huddled in the corner, shotgun across his knees, whispering prayers he'd abandoned decades ago. The storm's fury peaked around midnight, winds howling like a chorus of damned souls. Lightning illuminated horrors through the shutters, shapes in the yard, tall, elongated figures weaving between the trees, their forms flickering like faulty film reels. Were they shadows, neighbors, or the storm walkers, come to claim what Clara had promised them? He thought of her boot by the creek, the lace torn not by roots, but by hands, pale, elongated fingers dragging her into the earth. By dawn, the tempest ebbed, leaving a sodden hush. Elias emerged, bleary-eyed, to survey the wreckage, uprooted saplings strewn like matchsticks, the truck's ropes frayed to threads. The yard was empty, no footprints in the mud save his own, but in the attic, the raincoat was gone, and etched into the floorboard where he'd fired, a crude spiral, like a lightning scar, circled by tiny, deliberate scratches. Elias, he never told a soul. The locals chalked Clara's vanishing to a flash flood, but Elias knew better. Storms don't forget, they hunger, and on clear nights, when thunder rumbled distant, he'd hear it again, her voice, calling from the roots, inviting him to the dance. Word count, 1028, pound echoes in the static. Marisol Vargas was a skeptic by trade, a 32-year-old meteorologist stationed at the National Weather Service outpost in rural Nebraska, where the sky stretched infinite and unforgiving. Her days blurred into Doppler radar scans and balloon launches, charting the moods of cumulonimbus behemoths that birthed tornadoes from flat nothing. Divorced twice, both husbands fleeing the nomadic life of storm chasing, Marisol found solace in data, in the cold logic of isobers and vorticity. But thunderstorms unnerved her, not for their destruction, but for the way they toyed with electronics, radios spitting phantom voices, GPS units reciting coordinates to nowhere. It was June 2018, during the plane's brutal twister season, when the event unfolded. Marisol was solo at the outpost, a squat concrete bunker amid cornfields that whispered in the breeze. Her partner, Tech was Kyle, had called in sick, food poisoning from a gas station burrito, and the forecast screamed severe, a line of supersas marching east, spawning funnel clouds like serpents uncoiling from the clouds. She prepped the array, anemometers whirring, radar pinging green blips on her monitor. As dusk fell, the horizon ignited, anvil heads glowing bruised orange, birthing lightning that stitched the sky. By 7 p.m., the first gust rattled the chain-link fence, carrying the metallic tang of ozone. Marisol logged wind speeds, 35 knots, climbing, while sipping vending machine coffee that tasted of regret. The radio crackled to life for the evening brief. All stations, EF2, confirmed southwest of Kearney. Seek shelter, she acknowledged, voice steady, but her reflection in the window betrayed her, eyes wide, lips pressed thin. Thunder rolled, a bass growl that vibrated her fillings. The static began subtly, threading through the broadcast like a glitch. Shelter confirmed help they're coming. Marisol adjusted the dial, but the voice, a child's, high and reedy, persisted, overlapping the announcer. What the hell? She checked the antenna feed, all clear. Hallucination from fatigue. She'd pulled 18-hour shifts before, but this felt visceral. The words slicing through the white noise. Miss, the shadows move. Don't let them in. She killed the radio, plunging the room into the hum of fluorescence, but the voice echoed in her skull. Unbidden. Back. She powered it up, scanning frequencies. Emergency bands were jammed with chatter, farmers reporting downed lines, sirens wailing in the distance. But on 162.400 MHz, the NOAA Weather Channel, the static resolved into coherence, not the modulated tones of the service, but a frantic monologue. They come with the rain, miss. Crawl up from the ditches. My name's Tommy. I was 8. Storm took mama, then it took me. Marisol's breath hitched. Tommy. The name tugged at memory, a boy lost in the 89 outbreak, swept into a culvert during an effort that leveled his town. Presumed drowned, body never recovered. Folklore painted him as a warning, the ditch kid, his ghost haunting twister-prone fields, begging rescue from the ether. She laughed it off, a brittle bark, and switched to ham radio, keying the mic for the regional net. This is NWS Echo 7, any traffic? Silence. Save the storm symphony. Hail pinging the roof like machine gun fire. Then, unprompted, the speaker erupted. Echo 7, copy. Tommy says run. The funnels aren't empty. Marisol slammed the mic down. Heart jackrabbiting. Coincidence? Some prankster bouncing signals off the ionosphere, warped by lightning-induced plasma. But the outpost security cam feed flickered, showing the perimeter, cornstalks thrashing, and in the downpour, indistinct shapes darting between rows, low, scuttling forms that defied the wind's logic. Thunder cracked overhead, close enough to smell the scorch, and the power dipped. Backup generators kicked in with a diesel cough, bathing the room in yellow sodium light. Marisol barricaded the door with a filing cabinet, its drawers stuffed with archive forecast mocking her now. The radio, against her better judgment, stayed on. Tommy's voice wove through the static tapestry. They wear our skins, Miss Slough. I'm off in the rain. Listen, footsteps. She did. A wet slop slap against the concrete outside, rhythmic as a dirge. Peering through the reinforced window, lightning strobed the lot. A silhouette, child-sized, pressed against the fence, face obscured by hood and torrent. It waved, a tiny hand, beckoning. Terror rooted her, but science rebelled. She grabbed the handheld VHF, clipping it to her belt, and armed the distress beacon. This is Dr. Vargas. NWS outpost compromised. Unknown intruder. No response. The airwaves bled interference. The slaps grew louder, circling the building like a predator scenting blood. Inside, the temperature plummeted, vents exhaling frost despite the summer swelter. Tommy whispered urgently, hide the light. They followed the glow. Marisol doused the lamps, plunging into darkness broken only by monitor glow. On radar, the supercell loomed, a hook echo pulsing like a vent heart, tornado signature spawning 2 miles out. The door handle rattled then, not wind, but deliberate twists, accompanied by a child's giggle warped through water. Let us in, miss. It's wet out here. Plural now. Marisol backed away, fumbling for her sidearm. A Glock issued for field work, its weight a meager talisman. The radio screamed feedback, Tommy's plea dissolving into cacophony. They're not me anymore. The storm remakes them. Run. She bolted for the storm cellar access in the floor, heaving the hatch amid thunder's applause. Descending into the earthen pit, she sealed it, the clang echoing like a tombstone dropped. In the musty dark, she waited, pistol drawn, the only sound her ragged breaths and the muffled roar above. Minutes stretched to eternities, shapes scraped the hatch, nails like chalk on blackboard. Visions assaulted her, Tommy, skeletal and blue-lipped, crawling from the ditch, skin sliding in translucent sheets to reveal something chitinous beneath, eyes like ball lightning. The storm fed them, she realized, lightning's energy twisting flesh into abominations, tornadoes birthing litters of the half-dead. Dawn crept in around 5 a.m., the all clear, sounding faint on the battery radio. Marisol emerged to devastation, fence mangled, cornfield, a splintered ruin, and on the door, handprints, small and smeared, glowing faintly phosphorescent. No bodies, no tracks. Kyle arrived at noon, blaming his absence on a bug, oblivious to her ashen face. She filed it as equipment malfunction, but quit the service a month later, fleeing to city lights, where storms were just rain on windows. Years on, Marisol avoids thunderstorms, ears plugged against the static. But sometimes, in hotel rooms far from the plains, she hears him, "Miss, they're coming for you too." Word count, 1012. Pound beneath the fractured sky. Dr. Lena Kowalski, a 41-year-old atmospheric physicist, had chased hurricanes for NOAA since her PhD, mapping their eyes with probes that danced on the devil's breath. Her life was a carousel of motels and maxed-out mileage, punctuated by the adrenaline rush of cat for walls howling like banshees. But it was a thunderstorm, not a cyclone, that broke her. In September 2020, during a research stint in the Louisiana bayou, where cypress knees pierced the murk like drowned fingers, Lena anchored her team at a clapboard research station on stilts over brackish water. The group, her assistant, Ravi, a jittery postdoc, and interns Mia and Theo, fresh-faced undergrads thrilled by the peril. The setup was rustic, tethered buoys bobbing in the swamp, sensors humming data on humidity and shear winds. Forecast pegged a mesoscale convective system barreling in from the Gulf. A squall line laced with microbursts and haboobs of dust from the Delta's corpse. Lena prepped with ritualistic calm, calibrating anemometers, charging laptops, distributing go bags with flares and knives. Storms are puzzles. She lectured the interns over gumbo from a thermos. Solve them. Don't fear them. But privately, she nursed a scar from 05. Katrina's remnants flooding her childhood home in New Orleans, washing away her father's journals on sky veins, ley lines, where lightning pooled like blood. The front arrived at twilight, the sky fracturing into viridian veins, thunder, a guttural bellow that set the alligators fleeing. Rain hammered the metal roof, turning the world to a hammered silver blur. Lena monitored feeds in the main room, a converted porch screened against mosquitoes, while Ravi tinkered with the buoy array via laptop. Mia and Theo bunked in the back, playing cards to mask their nerves. Winds gusted to 60 knots, stilts creaking like arthritic knees. Lightning etched palmettos in negative, and the power surged, then failed, plunging them into lantern glow.
Static infested the comms first, satellite phones spitting garbled bursts, laptop screens glitching with fractal patterns. Interference from strikes, Lena diagnosed, but unease gnawed. The air thickened, charged with ions that prickled skin like static wool. Then, from the swamp, a chorus, low and choral, rising with the gale. Not frogs or birds, but voices, layered, archaic, chanting in a tongue like drowned French, words slurring through water. Les veins s'ouvrent, le ciel saigne. Sky veins open, the sky bleeds. Lena's blood iced, her father's journals, salvaged from the flood, rambled of such things, ancient bayou cults believing thunderstorms tore rifts, spilling, les ombres den bas, shadows from below. Ravi laughed nervously. Gators calling mates. But his eyes darted to the screens, where radar bloomed unnatural blooms, echoes not of rain, but voids, circular absences devouring the returns. Mia whimpered, cards scattering as thunder quaked the station. Theo, bold or foolish, cracked the screen door for a look. Lightning obliged, silhouetting him against the deluge, and something else, tendrils, ink black, uncoiling from the water, latching his ankle with a splash audible over the roar. He screamed, a raw animal keen, as it yanked him down, legs first, into the murk. Lena lunged, knife flashing, severing the grip, ropey, pulsating, like eel's flesh but warm, veined with bioluminescent pulses. Theo collapsed, ankle lacerated, babbling of faces in the water, mouths full of teeth. They barricaded, dragging furniture against the door, lanterns clustered like talismans. The chanting swelled, now from all sides, swamp encircling, voices multiplying into a dirge that synced with thunder's rhythm. Ravi's laptop died mid-scan, screen fracturing into static portraits, faces, translucent, pressed against the camera like aquarium ghosts, eyes hollow as sockets. There through the veins, one mouthed silently, lips moving in the freeze frame. Lena rifled her father's digitized notes, rituals to seal rifts, salt circles, iron wards, but supplies were scant. She traced a hasty perimeter with iodized table salt, the grains dissolving in humidity, while Mia prayed in Spanish, rosary beads clicking. The assault escalated at 11 p.m., microbursts slamming the station like a fist, stilts buckling with wood splinter cracks. Water surged beneath, black and frothing, carrying debris, bones, fish skeletons, and worse, human flotsam, bloated and barnacle-crusted, eyes milky. One bobbed close, a woman's, her mouth gaping in eternal scream, tongue lolling like a storm flag. The voices peaked, join us, fille du ciel. Feed the fracture. Lena's childhood flooded back, nights hiding under beds as Katrina raged, her father muttering of sacrifices to close the tears, his own hands scarred from sewing the sky. A breach came via the floorboards, water seeping, then bubbling, birthing forms, humanoid, elongated, skin sloughing in sheets to reveal musculature like knotted cypress roots. They slithered up, dripping ichor that sizzled on wood, fingers elongated to claws. Ravi fired the flare gun point blank, crimson light igniting one in a pyre of steam and shrieks, but it took three. Mia slashed with the knife, severing a limb that writhed independently, while Theo, feverish from blood loss, babbled warnings, they want the chaser's eyes, see through to the other side. Lena bashed another's skull with a fire extinguisher, gray matter spraying like sea foam, but for each felt, two emerged, the rift widening with every bolt. Dawn was a siege's end, the storm shredding apart as if embarrassed by its spawn. The station listed, half submerged, but held. Bodies dissolved in the receding tide, leaving only slime trails and the faint etch of claws on walls. Theo's ankle wound festered with vein-like infections, requiring airlift. He never spoke of it again, dropping physics for seminary. Ravi resigned, haunted by phantom chants in his sleep. Mia transferred east, to mountains where skies stayed blue. Lena burned the journals that week, scattering ashes over the bayou. She still chases storms, but thunderstorms. She grounds flights, reroutes teams, anything to deny the fractures. Yet in quiet labs, when thunder grumbles offshore, she feels it, the pull, the whisper of veins esovrent, urging her to gaze up and see the shadows waiting to spill.